An Oklahoma landlord wants to create a government-regulated agency to help protect the rights of landlords. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I think that's a bad idea. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming from a landlord, okay? A landlord out of Oklahoma, and this landlord is experiencing the exact same problems that all of us are. We're dealing with too much government regulation, a system that is basically set up so the tenants have all the rights and the landlords, we seem to have less and less rights as time passes. And things are difficult, okay? It can really hurt, especially small mom and pop landlords who don't have a lot of emergency reserves, who don't know the law as well as, the professional landlords who deal with this sort of thing all the time. So the idea is that there would be a government regulatory agency that helps landlords be able to operate their businesses and deal with all of this nonsense, right? And I got a big problem with that, okay? I am not for more government, no matter what. It's not going to help. It's only going to make things worse. It's going to make things worse, especially for the very mom and pop landlords that you want to protect, okay? So what we need is less government regulation, less government regulatory agencies. That's the thing that we need, okay? Not more, less. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think that adding a government agency to help protect landlords, you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? Okay? And keep in mind, the landlord who wrote this, I'm sure has great intentions. But, every time I think about, okay, what is the best course of action? What is the best way that landlords will be able to deal with these problems? And it never is more government. Never. Absolutely never is more government going to be the solution. So anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. This article is coming from the Oklahoman.com, and it says, what about a regulatory agency to provide protections for property owners and investors? Let's see what this person says. High interest rates have undoubtedly put a strain on Oklahoma households. A product of high interest rates and inflation is the continued problem of limited, affordable, quality, and safe housing options. Interest rates for a 30-year mortgage are currently about 7.5%. When applied to reality, this equates to a house payment of about $1,400 for a $200,000 home mortgage, not including property taxes and insurance. When these requirements are included in the total payment, Oklahoma consumers are faced with a $1,700 plus payment per month. This is simply not a possibility for many households. As expected with most business ventures, the ownership and management of rental properties is not without risk or burden. Property owners or managers must navigate the risk or the concepts of risk, cash flow, protection, and continued viability. Some real estate investors are unfairly categorized as slumlords or greedy individuals taking advantage of a financially disadvantaged consumer group. While I do not question the fact that this scenario exists, not all owners or managers operate under this category. Many, such as myself, are simply interested in bolstering retirement revenues through real-life work and investments. And I would go further and say that, yeah, slumlords do exist, but they are minuscule. I'm talking like 0.1% or less of the number of actual landlords out there who are doing everything right, who treat their tenants with respect, and fix every repair that could possibly need, just are following the law. 99.9% of landlords are doing that, but you have a few bad apples, and those bad apples are the ones that they seem to be targeting when they pass all these new laws. They're like, oh yeah, this slumlord over here, he didn't do repairs, and he is a bad man, and so therefore we're going to require all landlords to register and go through inspections. Like, wait a second here. So that one guy over there didn't do repairs, and there's 5,000 landlords within the city. So you're going to make the other 4,999 who've been doing all of their repairs get inspections because you're trying to catch that one guy over there, why not just go after him? That's always my question. Why do the laws, instead of just going after these few bad actors, why do they always put a punishment on all of the people who are doing everything right? That it's idiocy. It's absolute idiocy, right? But it's government. Government is the thing that does that, right? They think that this regulatory agency we're going to create is the solution, and that's part of the reason why I disagree with this landlord here. Unfortunately, under our current system, a few tenants can derail the plan. It has been my experience that the formal eviction and removal process can take in excess of 2 months. Why is this the case? Why are the legal protections associated with the landlord and tenant relationship structured only to protect the tenant? After all, many bills associated with property ownership continue regardless of the tenancy status. Could or should there be protections for the landlord? This unfair concept is forcing investors to reconsider their goals. Individual or small tier landlord or investors subject themselves to an added burden due to this lengthy process. An owner of only a few properties can have all profits diminished due to only a few delayed eviction and removal proceedings. Unfortunately, if nothing is done to remedy this situation, affordable housing options for Oklahomans will continue to decrease. And while I do agree with you, I agree with you on every point that you brought up, right? I do want to say that, okay, from an outside perspective, from the landlords who are sitting in states where the eviction process is much longer than just a couple of months, it could sound like, well, you're whining about nothing, right? I live in a landlord-friendly place too. The eviction process here in Nebraska is a lot faster than in places like California, New York, etc. However, as this landlord said, even though the process is faster, we still suffer immensely every time we have to go through it. And so it can cost you thousands of dollars. Now, we're not losing $100,000 like some California landlords, but if you're a small mom and pop, it could put you in financial distress. Okay, so like I said, I agree with him. The process, even here, is too slow to be able to get rid of tenants. I want it to be like that, to be able to get rid of a tenant who isn't paying you rent. I don't want to wait at all. So waiting a couple months is too much, especially when you're small mom and pop. The Housing and Urban Development Agency is tasked with managing many aspects of housing, whether it be through the regulation of lending practices, the enforcement of anti-discrimination or discriminatory practices, the regulation of safety, or providing subsidized housing. This agency is largely structured to protect the consumer. What if there were an agency or entity that also reasonably protected the property owner? By reasonably, I am referring to protections that allow the landlord to continue operations without substantially raising the costs for other tenants, right? And I don't know if he's going to clarify on what exactly he means by allowing landlords to continue their operations without raising the costs. The only thing that I could think of, right, would be either allow the landlord to be able to remove a regulatory agency allowed a landlord to be able to remove a tenant much quicker, maybe without a judicial process at all, okay, or a regulatory agency that I guess would provide rental assistance so that the landlord continued to get paid while they were going through the eviction. That would be the only ways. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's going to clarify here in this article. But, to me, this sort of regulatory agency it wouldn't be able to do much unless it could provide landlords with money, okay? Just directly. I am in no way advocating for a scenario that removes delinquent tenants on an unreasonably short notice, but rather realizing the fact that our current system is costing other well-intentioned tenants. Ultimately, business practices are guided by math. There must be a competitive profit, or many will choose to invest in other endeavors. I believe that it is possible for a regulatory agency to also provide protections for property owners and investors. This could come as a sub-branch within HUD or an entirely separate entity. While I am generally opposed to government overregulation, This is a needed service for the maintenance or promotion of an affordable housing market. So you say that you are against government regulation, right? Well, you have to ask yourself why. Why now? Why do you think that the solution now, if you're against government regulation, why do you think that government regulation is the solution? Okay? It makes no sense. You know, think about when we're talking about, let's talk about California, right? Because California is the perfect example of too much government regulation, where they literally believe there that, you know, they need to pass more laws in order to solve problems that were created by the other laws that they they wrote. And so they keep passing more and more laws. The problems keep getting bigger and bigger. And the solution is obvious to someone like me, where you need to destroy those laws, eliminate them, remove them, repeal them, do whatever you can, and allow the businesses and the people to operate in the way that they choose, not in the way that the government allows them. You know, like, oh, you know, let's put rent control policies into place because that will make housing affordable. No, it won't make housing affordable. It'll make housing scarce, which means that it will cost more, you know? And then, oh, well, now people are finding exemptions to the rent control law, so we're going to pass another rent control law that removes those exemptions, which, oddly enough, makes housing more scarce, which makes it even more expensive. You know? It's just one of those things where I will never believe, I mean, absolutely never, that more government regulation, more regulatory agencies, and, you know, more bureaucracy are the solution to anything. So let me know what you think of this whole situation down in the comments below.